So when something goes wrong from the beginning with that sensory brain, and I'm already going off on a tangent here, forgive me, but it makes me think of our educational system and how it is set up. The neocortex, let me make this point, the neocortex is not fully developed. So think about this first. The neocortex speaks the language of words. So you know how with the animal brain we have the language of sensations, right? Our 5 senses is the newborn baby. Then within months we've got a feeling brain that can actually use that language of emotion. And then, what is it? It's about 9 months old. We've got some real babbling going on, right? So words are starting to come on. As that neocortex starts to develop, we start to get words as a language. And so we've got babbling at 9 months, we've got single words at a year, we've got, by 2 years, we have 2 and 3 words that we're able to string together. But you get the idea that this is a developing, organ here, muscle, in response to the environment, that as it becomes more and more developed, then we get more and more language, right? So I have a 4.5-year-old, and he's got a wonderful command of language, but if you have a little 4.5-year-old, it still gets mixed up and there's no mastery or command of language yet. That's because the neocortex, the brain, is still developing. And in fact, it does not complete its development until we're in our mid-20s. So for those of you who made terrible decisions in college, or if you didn't go to college, in your early 20s, there's very good reason. You were walking around with half a brain. I mean, really, we do not have a fully functioning brain until we're in our mid-20s. This is really important for us to get. The expectations that we have for our children are utterly ridiculous. The expectations that our school systems have for our students, they're utterly ridiculous. The neocortex needs to be much more fully developed than it is when our children enter school at kindergarten and are being given, homework packets and writing tests, and they're already supposed to know how to read. The brain is not ready at all. It is not developed to the degree that it needs to be. So what are we doing? What are we actually doing when we introduce our children to what they're not yet ready for, which is a lot of school, like, academics, right? School used to be just social and about play and about sensory experiences. It used to be about playing in the sandbox, learning how to cut, getting your hands in the clay, right? That was when education made sense, when education really was in sync with brain development. Now, we've got these, even in preschool, we've got this academic focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic that this neocortex is not on board for. So in fact, what we're doing, we're agitating the animal brain. That's what we're doing. We're not speaking its language. We're trying to talk to our children in Chinese. Do you know what I'm saying? They don't speak that language. They speak the language of sensations. If what you're doing with them isn't sensory, if it's verbal, and if you're expecting them to be verbal and all that means, reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? If that's what you're expecting, you're poking at that animal brain, you're agitating it, and what are you doing when you're doing that? Because of course the animal brain is saying, I don't speak your language. What is going on here, right? They have not even half of what they need in their neocortex, really. I mean, it's not that the neocortex isn't developed. By the time kids enter school, it's there, it's developed, and it's on board in a lot of ways. But all of that sophisticated stuff that we were talking about earlier, impulse control and planning ahead and consequences and mastery of the language of words, not on board at all. So when we're not speaking the language, we're not resonating. And when we're not resonating, we're agitating, right? And when we're poking at that animal brain, we're increasing arousal. And our students are feeling more and more stress, they're feeling more and more aroused, and they don't yet They have no idea how to modulate it. Nobody's showing them how. In fact, we take away a lot of their self-soothing mechanisms, right? Oh, you're this age now, no blankie for you anymore. Or you're this age now, no pacifier for you anymore. Or whatever it is that they are using to self-soothe that arousal. A lot of times we end up stripping them of it, especially because they've entered school now. Time to be a big boy, time to be a big girl, right? The brain's not ready to be a big boy or a big girl. So we've really got it all wrong, and it's why we're losing so many of our students, if not by the 2nd grade, so many by the 3rd grade. We just see the light going out. And what is so sad about that is that parents watch it, they see that it's happening, but they're left, they've been trained somehow to trust the educators, that they know what they're doing, or to trust the doctor, that the doctor knows what she or he is doing. And yet a lot of these people have no clue about the neuroscience because it's so brand new. It really is hot off the press, and it's hot off the press every single day. If you're not going, to neuroscience conferences 4 times a year like I try to do, you don't know what the newest findings are. It's happening all the time. So we have to know about it, and we have to let it inform us as parents, as educators, and as healers. I just don't think that there's anything more important for us to be thinking about now. It has to shape every choice we make, to understand, am I resonating right now with where my child is at, right? So it's very important, this neuroscience, as I think about education, but certainly for so many other reasons. But this is, the fact that I get to go to these neuroscience conferences is such a blessing. But what I want to be able to do is bring it back to people, bring that information back to people in a really accessible way, because no offense to they're all my heroes, these guys and gals that are doing this work, but it's not always so interesting to listen to. It can be, sometimes it's really dry, and they're not the best, researchers are not necessarily the best presenters, and, so for me, I take it all in, being the brain nerd that I am, and then for whatever reason, parents and educators tell me that I have this way of sort of getting it out there so that it feels accessible to them, and that's what I want. I just want to be sharing this information in a way that feels accessible to people, because it's so relevant to them. It's relevant to every single one of us. I don't care how old or how young. I work with educators now on having lessons with their students around this information. Talk to them about them. They know this is what's going on for them. And they know that this is what's missing, and that they're feeling so much inside, but nobody's really talking to them about what's going on. And I don't mean about emotions, I mean about sensations. They largely live in their animal brain, so their experiences are sensory, but nobody's really talking about what goes on from the neck down. We all kind of run from it, avoidance, delay, denial. We like that sort of thing. We don't want to feel too much from the neck down because it doesn't always feel good. Right? With this our arousal, we're not always in our optimum zone, so the arousal feels really big and really scary. So we want to go away somehow, dissociate, numb, avoid it, go to happy hour. We want to do something that's gonna take us out of that scary feeling that we may be getting from the arousal being there, right? So we have to learn how to modulate it for ourselves, and then we have to use that, use our knowledge, that we're gathering for ourselves and our own functioning, and share it with our students and our children and whoever wants to listen. But we can make it accessible to everyone is the point. And that's part of what, makes me so passionate and excited about doing something like this, this tape series here, to really make it accessible to everyone. So that's why I'm here. And we're going to keep talking about why it's so relevant, right? So this is just the beginning. So the neuroscience has told us that self-regulation is the single most important capacity. That if we possess it, and it's healthy and running, automatically and well, then we can learn and behave in every way imaginable, right? So we're learning that we need to have that. And we're learning about how it develops and what can go wrong with it. Because you see, what goes wrong with it is stress and trauma, right? We live on planet trauma.